Welcome everyone to SEO Office Hours. My name is Michael Chidzey. I'm an SEO here at Good Signals, and part of what we do, along with special guests, are these Office Hours sessions where people can jump in and ask their questions around their website and web search. By the way, nobody here is in the hot seat, and we might not know all the answers, but multiple heads thinking about a problem should help. We've had a bunch of questions submitted already, as you can see, which we'll go through. But if there's anybody here live on the call who would like to ask any questions, please feel free to flag yourself in the chat functionality, which will be monitored. Also, there's usually a bunch of amazing SEOs live on the call who share their ideas, experiences, and perspectives. I personally think that's one of the best things about SEO Office Hours is not just hearing from the four of us, but hearing from everybody else. So please continue to do that. You may have noticed that Juliana Temple isn't with us this week, and instead, stepping into her shoes is Simon Cox. Welcome, Simon. Good morning.
Thank you, Mike, and hello, everyone. And I will be terrible at this, so you'll welcome Joe back hopefully next week. We've got billions of people joining us today, at least 118. That may be 100 over the number. And I see lots of regular people in the chat. Hi, Mark. Hi, Petra. Hi, Veronica. Hi, Jack. Hi, Rob. Hi, Jeff. It's great. Okay, countries. Yeah, Mark's in Amsterdam. What are you doing there? Um, all the normal countries. I'm going to go
All
through
the
them like
regular
Joe
ones.
does. Yeah, from people from all over the world, apart from who are asleep in America. That's good. Today is episode 79, which is brilliant because we're almost at 80. Today with us, we have Emma Russell, who's been on before. She was absolutely brilliant. She is the founder of Oxford Comma Digital, a search-first digital agency dedicated to helping brands grow through organic search. And with more than a decade of experience in SEO, she has worked both in-house and agency side. Good for her. Supporting startups and some of the UK's best-known brands, including House of Fraser, Mitsubishi, Shaw Deodorants, Smithson, and Kramer Brown. She's passionate about sharing her knowledge, and Emma speaks regularly all over the place. Brighton SEO, Women in Tech, Remote SEO, Reading SEO, etc. She's also a member of Women in Tech. Good for her. And good for Women in Tech. Brilliant group. And she brought the next generation of digital leaders. Thank you, Emma. We also have
I should
Yagmur.
definitely shorten that.
Yeah, you should have done really.
Yeah, I mean, I'm half the size.
This is much smaller. This is much quicker. Yagmur Simsek is with us as well today. She's a freelance SEO consultant, founder of Search and Stuff Networking. Excuse me, I'll go because I cut that bit out. Founder of Search and Stuff Networking Project and co-founder of Global Cybersecurity Network. Yagmur Sim is based in London in the UK, but she's doing the Search and Stuff conference in Turkey in October. And Yagmur Sim, do you want to tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, we are organizing these London meetups for the last 2 years, and then we decided to organize the big one, the global one in Antalya, Turkey. The reason Antalya is that it's my hometown, so I wanted to start this conference series from there, and God knows where it goes in the next year. We will see. We have international speakers, amazing speakers, and we have Mark and Petra who already spoke at the last year's event. And hopefully this year Mark is gonna be speaking again. And so we have 3 nights accommodation, like a boot camp conference. We've got main stage, and we've got like main stage talks and then the workshop sessions on the next day. And we've got like simultaneous translation between English and Turkish because some speakers prefer to speak in Turkish, so we fill the gap in between. And we have networking activities in the evening. This time we're gonna even do PowerPoint karaoke led by Jerry White. We will see what's gonna happen. We'll announce that soon as well. And yeah, it's being fun and it's good to see global community in Turkey, which is great because some visa issues and some border issues. Sometimes Turkish people cannot travel abroad easily for those kind of events. So we want to make it accessible for those audience as well. Yeah, you're all welcome. I will share special discount for this audience only later the call, and feel free to message me on LinkedIn for more information. I don't want to steal so much of time, so thank you.
Excellent. I've just put some details in the chat for those on chat of the conference.
Thank you.
We've got loads of questions to get through. Mike.
Great. And the only thing is, we didn't say, Simon, you're a technical SEO as well. I didn't
Yeah.
introduce you properly. Sorry. So Simon is a technical SEO and has been such an amazing supporter of SEO Office Hours. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I'm pleased we finally managed to get you to come on. And as a host, even better. Okay, let's jump straight in. First question. So we're currently on a .so domain, which I think is for Somalia, but our main audience is the UK with some relevance in the US. Google says TLDs don't affect rankings, but in practice, some domains like XYZ or CC carry a spammy reputation and even causes issues with links, user trust, and email deliverability. Given that we get fewer than 100 organic visits a month, is it best to rebrand now to a .com or .co.uk, even if it means using a hyphen or a variation of our brand? Or is it actually viable to scale on a dot? And they shared an article from Search Engine Roundtable. Who would like to kick off? What would you do in this situation?
I'll
Emma,
go
go for
first.
it.
Yeah, I'll go for it. Yeah, well, it's a bit awkward with the first question. It's, do I? I will. Yeah, yeah. So I think if you're going to migrate then earlier, I would do it earlier because obviously if you've got a load of traffic, there's more at risk when you're migrating because migrations like you can go like that a lot of the time, and sometimes going like that with your traffic is the best outcome that you can have sometimes. So there is more at risk the more that you have. So if you are going to migrate, then I would do it earlier. The decision on whether you need to or not, I might pass the mic because I know, of course, that like .ios are really popular. I don't know if .so has a poor reputation. I never really see it in the wild, so there might be that level of unfamiliarity, but I'm going to pass the mic on answering the rest of that question. No pressure.
I mean, from my perspective, obviously we don't know I think we don't know what the website is about or what is the feature plans like in terms of the strategy.
Sorry, just to add, so it's a newsletter and it ranks number one for its brand. That's
Okay.
basically the traffic that it
Okay.
gets is newsletter traffic.
Okay, so
Yeah.
yeah. I think I would just go with .com, but it's my inner sense is talking now. But the thing is, if it's a different website, obviously we need to be thinking about the strategy for the next years, like about the language setups or if they're gonna be creating different language and different content depends on that in between .com or .uk. Yeah, but our second thoughts on the first part.
Great. Simon, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I was going to say that I don't know anything about the Somalian at all, so I wouldn't know, but I know about other country domains, etc. But in the chat, John has mentioned that .so is not treated as a global top-level domain, which knowing that now, and that's a new piece of information to me, I get off it as soon as possible and do that migration. Rebranding, I'm not sure. I don't really think you should rebrand unless you need to, but definitely shift the site onto a .com domain, I think is the best action. And of course, you do all the redirects and everything properly.
Yeah.
So your
Yeah,
100
definitely need
people
those
don't
redirects.
disappear completely.
Yeah. Yeah, I think given that, I didn't realize that either. So thanks, John, for adding that into the chat. I think you've been educating us more than the speakers have potentially so far. So thank you. I think I'd migrate. And to second Simon's point, just to add, I wouldn't rebrand unless you have to. I mean, obviously, if it makes sense to do, then do it. But normally it's not really an SEO thing. It's more of an overall branding exercise. So if you have to rebrand at the same time, then go for it. But again, yeah, migration is always a bit of a risk, but seems like it's worth doing now rather than later.
Yeah.
Also in the chat, Veronica said, if your main audience is UK US, I'd move off to SO now. While Google doesn't penalize the TLD directly, no, penalization is an odd word. So yes, they won't. In practice, it hurts trust, links, and email deliverability. With less than 100 organic visits, migration costs are low, and future growth will be easier on a .com or a .uk focused domain. Even a hyphen variation is better long term than scaling on a spammy looking CCTLD. That's a very good point from Veronica. Thank you.
Yeah, great. The only thing I would add is that, as I said, it looks like they only get traffic for their brand terms. And so actually, apart from, I guess, not appearing for your brand, You can only really gain if that makes sense, because at the moment it doesn't seem like you're getting any organic traffic for any of the amazing newsletter content that you do. So I think that makes sense because it is not just a newsletter. I don't mean it like that, but because it is so specific, you could just include that in the actual domain as well. And then that might open up more options, for example, so that you can try and capture a .com or a .co.uk like the others have mentioned. Simon, is there anything else in the chat before we jump to the next one?
Yeah, I'm going to go through a few. So Monty said a .com will always have more weight everywhere. Jeff has said I'd buy .co and .com to redirect just to make sure no one grabs it and ruins your brand. And Monty's also said, as Veronica says, think very carefully about migrating. It's not just resource intensive. You may not have yield the results you think you may get. But I think everybody else and everybody's saying do that migration because .so is not going to help at all. So get on a .com or .co.uk and buy the other one as well, and then redirect to whichever one you want. If your main audience is in the UK, your main target audience, main people may be coming from the UK, but your main target audience may be the US. Buy the .com for the world, although obviously everybody in the US thinks it is the US. It isn't. There is a .us for the people watching. Go .com, redirect .co.uk to the .com is what I'd recommend.
Amazing. I personally also obsessed around when we rebranded to Good Signals around getting the .com and the .co.uk and all the variations. I felt like that was really important from a branding perspective and a trust perspective. And if this is something that you really want to grow, I personally would try and find a domain that people trust. And I can't think of any examples of where I've seen a .s in the search results when I'm searching for something from the UK. Just to add that. Okay, next question. Let's go with this one. Okay. At the 2025 Berkshire Hathaway annual meeting, Warren Buffett asked CEOs, if you were stranded on a desert island for 10 years, which competitor's stock would you buy and which would you short? If we apply that to SEO, which strategies and tactics would you invest in because you believe they'll still matter in 5 years, and which would you short because you expect them to collapse? Who would like to kick off? Yagmur, are you comfortable starting with this one?
Yeah, let's do it.
Go for it.
So I think I would probably keep quality content, like evergreen content as well. I know it's cliche, but I think it works. And probably the trust signals, like not only obviously trusted backlinks we gain over time, but also I would keep other signals like from offline platforms as well, because I know that now it's becoming like a all engaged strategies, either UX, offline presence, which will eventually come to online brand impressions, but also some other stuff that you are doing as a brand. And what else I would keep? I think I would keep structured data points, strategies, but I'm not sure about what would I give up, like instead of I think I wouldn't give up most of the things I'm doing at the moment, but if I have to, I would probably give up like excessive link building and what else? Just a basic on-page tactics. I think they are good, but they're not with the AI and everything that's happening at the moment. I would say there will always be new changes and page optimization strategies coming up as a new concept. So I would just give up for now, and then I will probably follow the new trends. But yeah, that's it, I guess, from my
Yeah,
side.
I agree. I was thinking about this and then I was thinking, how do I feel about technical? Because is it going to be that a load of websites are coming up and they're built with AI and it's not really done in the best way, or actually the AI tool is going to get better and better and actually technical SEO is done a lot better naturally? I don't know how it's going to go with these different AI platforms and how it's going to develop. I don't know if I'd remove anything from my tool set apart from, as you must said, like with the extensive backlinking. I think it needs to be reframed, which of course the industry is already doing anyway, but reframing it into like more of an authority conversation, which it was from the start, because that's the whole point of PageRank.
Yeah.
It's from academic journals. So I don't think anything has really changed there, but perhaps SEOs are perhaps taking it a little bit more seriously, that it's more authority rather than links. It's links. I mean, we love a link, but it's not the be all and end all of what authority is anymore. So definitely keeping the authority aspect. Technical, we'll see how that develops, but absolutely content is king still, definitely. So yeah, definitely keep that. I'm really struggling to think anything else I'd remove from my tool set. I mean, I've been writing an AIO white paper, and this is SEO. Enjoy my white paper on SEO. There's of course like some knowledge in there about what an LLM is and how it works and like how that differs from a traditional search engine. But then it's okay, now let's get into the SEO of it. Like here's some technical SEO. So yeah, we'll see how it depends. It really depends, see how it works and see how technical goes. But it could be that technical SEO is very much in demand in the coming years. So Simon, that'll be you.
Possibly. I'm just fascinated by how you would buy stock if you were stuck on a desert island for 10 years. But it's a very pertinent question. And people are saying in chat, it's a very good question because you could say AI is the thing that's causing the disruption at the moment. And I've said this in other places. I think now is the time, rather than just chasing that dragon, chasing everything that's changing, just sit back and work on the core principles of what your website's about, your content, and as Monty said, the structure of the site. Just make sure it's all solid, because that's not going to change. Whilst everything, AI is very young. It's kind of like Google was in a way in the late 90s, and things are changing very fast. If you're making changes to your site to follow the latest bit and pieces on what AI is doing and how it's capturing stuff, 2 months' time, that's going to change. So that isn't a long-term strategy. That's just short-term tactics, which may be right for some businesses, but I'm sure it's probably not right for most businesses. In the chat, we have lots of similar things. I'm doing a Joe now and I'm reading them as I go through. Lots of people said, John and Jack have both said, what an interesting question. Monty said she'd keep on top of any developments, but don't stop doing what you're doing. John, one here is, aside, make sure to register the domain name ahead of time. It could be awkward if your credit card expired 5 years' time while on an island. Very good point. Again, comes back to this, if you're on an island, you can do your credit card. Why not ring up somebody for help? Come and get me. Jeff said, buy on-page content marketing, technical SEO, backlinks, CRO, UX, local SEO, basically everything. Sell nothing. That's a very good point. Don't change anything you're doing. And I would say keep testing. And if something works really well, be slightly wary of it at the moment, because it may not work well in the very near future. Petra said, coordination, SEO works for the rest of your team. SEO works when the rest of your team's content, dev, brand, social messaging, etc. are coordinated, understand trends, user needs, work towards the same goals. SEO contributes and amplifies and gets amplified by all this work when there's good coordination. And that's spot on. If everything's pulling together, not just on your website, but all your medias, be it digital, print, etc. They all need to be coordinated and pulled together. When that happens, you've got the start of a very good brand. Fran has said, high value, good structure content will definitely stay. Right.
Great. I think the only things that I would maybe add, which is what people have been saying, is just focusing on those things that improve your business and website. I think that rather than quick hacks or anything like that, I spend a lot of time with people I work with on things like product development, for example, and how do we make the actual product or service or whatever it is better. Spend a lot of time speaking to their customers and doing things like user testing and that sort of stuff. And I think that is something I definitely keep. For what it's worth, when I first got this question and I read buy, I panicked. I thought it was going to be about something totally different, but thankfully it wasn't. So it wasn't about buying links or anything like that, which is good. But yeah, I think in terms of the stuff that I would drop, probably just anything kind of short term, really, where you're doing it because you're jumping on some sort of trend or something that you've read and you feel you've got FOMO. And I feel like there's lots of that in our industry where you can easily waste an afternoon or a few days going down rabbit holes, and you really know your gut's telling you this is probably not the right thing to do long term. So yeah, I think always focusing on the long term is so important anyway. Is there anything else in the chat before we move off this island?
Rob said, I think you have to own the data. Be the source. It's still a core principle now, but even more so in the future. Browsers may not exist. Interesting thought, although I think they will. And sites may just be data sources for whatever the delivery system is in 10 years. And that's a very good point. So in 10 years, we're all going to either be living in caves or we're going to be telepathic. One of the two.
Yeah. I think that point on data is so important actually. They're making sure your data is like the gold standard of data and that you're always improving the information that you've got, whether that's public or that's private. But I think that I'm with Rob on that. I think that's incredibly important. Okay, I don't really have an answer for this one, so maybe you guys do. One of my clients is fed up with spam calls. He promotes financial services advice through his website, and those spammers take his info. Is there a way for his clients to reach him so he can remove, but still remove his contact info from the site? Is there a way to restrict these spammers? I'm not sure this is necessarily an SEO question, but does anybody have any advice to stop people from scraping your number and spamming you with calls and things like that?
I mean, yeah, this is not an SEO question, but something I had to deal with in the past. So basically, if you don't have to add your number, I would suggest lead forms for sure. And you can actually filter in the back end. But and because the thing is, spammers are not actually manually going to the websites and collecting the information. They're like working with bots and other crawlers maybe. In even with the emails, like when we shared email addresses on our website in the past, we were attacked. We sometimes we come up with solutions like adding not at but something instead of that, and then people keep warning me, oh, Yağmur, did you notice that you have a mistake on your email address on your website? I said that it's not a mistake, it's just
Yeah.
something to prevent. But so I think there is no one solution or top solution for that, but there are a few other tactics people are using, or maybe, I don't know, maybe chatbots or other stuff. But if you really need to have your phone number, maybe use some different tactics like to make their job harder. But of course, it's not a pure solution for that. Yeah, I mean, I can give example later. I can find out what we used in the past, but yeah, it's not purely working, but at least it reduced the number of attackers, I would say.
Yeah, it's good news you've been found, which is kind of what you want. Bad news, your time's been wasted. Do you know the
Yeah.
amount of emails I get from people asking if I need SEO advice? And I'm just like, "Are you
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
kidding?" Does anybody else have anything to say before we go to the next question?
I don't have anything to add to it because it's not really SEO, but I'll just, well, I mean, I won't take Simon's job, leave it to Simon, but Veronica's added a really nice point in the chat. So over to you, Simon.
Oh, thanks. Before we get to that, I'm just going to say that as an SEO, we tend to do a lot of things that are not SEO. We get involved with, especially with the smaller clients, you tend up to doing all sorts of things that you would not class SEO. When you're in a big company, big corporate, even then, when I was there, I was doing stuff which is not particularly SEO. It's just they didn't have anybody else to turn to. And since we tend to know websites better than anyone else, even the developers sometimes, especially developers, because the developers don't care about the content. We tend to get mixed up with a lot of stuff. So this is not a question that surprises me at all. And I've had many years of rebuilding contact forms on sites because they get spammed to death. That's slowed down a bit recently. I'm surprised about the phone calls. In the UK, it's not illegal to spam call a business, which is annoying because then you get lots of phone calls from other countries where you can buy cheap people to just phone up and hopefully get through to somebody, which is happening a lot in this country. There are ways of doing it. You can block numbers, etc. But you also might want to think about having a call service. So you actually filters through somebody and then pass all the decent stuff on to you. Let's get to Veronica's thing that Emma mentioned. I can't find it. Oh, there we are. Veronica said, I'd buy brand trust, topical depth, and structured content. They'll keep paying off as AI search evolves. This is the wrong question. What am I doing?
It's the one
Or
at
was it the right?
9:57.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry. Veronica said, use call scheduling tools or click to call with dynamic numbers so you can only genuine leads can reach you while keeping your main number protected. Additionally, client portals or chat widgets enable secure authentication communication that blocks spammers. That's really good advice. Mike.
Amazing. I do what you said actually, Simon, around I have a company that filters calls because I used to spend hours on the phone just unnecessarily. So yeah, I really like that advice because it works. Okay, next question. SEO audit tools often flag things like render blocking resources, oversized images, or too many H2s. In your experience, do fixes like these actually move the needle, or Are they more best practice hygiene? And if you don't have budget for an SEO, how would you prioritize what to fix first to get the most impact? Simon, would you be okay going first on this one as you're
Yeah,
the
sure. Let me
you're,
just read the
you're...
question again.
Oh, sorry, you're the techie.
I know. Yes, the
Whilst you
problem
read,
is
oh no, you got it. No, we're all good.
the problem is that the audits are quite often just press button, spit out what comes in, and it needs somebody to go through that audit and really analyze what's going on, because quite often an audit will pick up stuff that's okay, it's fine. You don't need to flag that at all. And other times there'll be hidden reasons why things are failing. There's no such thing as too many H2s.
Yeah,
But
I
if you
was
haven't got
thinking the
H1,
same.
if you haven't got H1 before the H2s, that's where I'd be flagging the first thing. Get that structure in the content, etc. If you don't have a budget for SEO, maybe spend a bit of time, spare hours learning about it. There's plenty of very good learning things on the web that you can go and learn a bit about SEO so that you can add it into your arsenal and your tool set of what you can do as a marketer or somebody running a website. Emma, you're desperate to say something.
I'm sorry. I'm a horrible interrupter.
No,
It's my
that's
whole
right.
family. We all do it. I'm so sorry. Born into it. No, I agree with you about the H2s. I read that bit and I was like, how many is too many? And they're like, hundreds? What's going on? Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think H2s are too many. I don't think that's really a problem. I think render blocking depends on what's happening, because I think the scale of that can really vary. Is it blocking like one thing, or is it render blocking everything and then your site is slow, is not showing up, is your content visible? So that one I always pay attention to, just to understand what's going on. Although I would say I'd never really get to that point in the audit with the tool, because it's one of the first things that I look for anyway, to see what is coming up, and having a look at all the JavaScript and stuff like that. I just tend to do it manually, look at the homepage, and then sometimes like a deeper page in the site, because like developers will focus on the homepage more than others. So I'll look at homepage and then find a random blog from yesteryear and look at that and see if that needs paying attention to, because if that has problems, then there's likely other ones as well. So render blocking, like looking at that in a tool, is definitely worth looking at, but typically I actually like front load it, and it's one of the first things I look at anyway. So I think sometimes the scale of things can be misinterpreted if you're just using a tool, and too many H2s are one of those things I would probably ignore, because I don't know how many is too many. What is the tool looking for here? If it was hundreds of H2s, I'd probably look at it and think, oh, maybe like it's a content issue rather than like a technical issue. But render blocking resources, depending on the scale, that can be really impactful. Just to address the other one, which is oversized images. Yeah, that can impact your speed. You don't want a slow site. You want a nice performance site. I think Screaming Frog, it highlights if it's over 100 kilobytes. And sometimes you need an image, like if you work in luxury and people need to be zooming in, then sometimes it's needed, but you can use things like source set and things like that to offset some things going on. And if it's like a tiny little logo, then I would argue that it shouldn't really be anywhere near 100 kilobytes. Yeah, it's the scale of the issue that I think is the thing to look into. And as Simon said, I definitely spend some time looking into it and learning SEO if it's something that you don't want to invest in.
Great. Yagmur, do you have anything to add?
I mean, Simon and Emma already explained really well. I think the only thing I would add would be, unless your performance is like awful, or like it's not blocking you from anything with rankings and traffic that you receive. And as Simon says, sometimes these audit findings need to be done and implemented by maybe wider teams. Sometimes we also work with really small clients, like clients with the small teams, and we need to focus on what could actually move the needle, as it's stated. If it's the technical issues that are actually making your performance awful, yes, let's focus on that. But sometimes in order to grow that team, like extend that team, you also need to earn some money or make sure that you are doing well with your business. So perhaps I would, if your performance is not that bad, I would focus also on the areas that can make your performance better in terms of your KPIs and goals, that if you want to earn more and then make your SEO team bigger and maybe solve those issues in a wider aspect. But yeah, I would just add that.
I'm going to add a couple of things. Emma mentioned about sticking an image in if you need one for luxury things. I did some work on a private bank in my corporate job many years ago, and they really didn't care how big the images were, because their audience were the people that have the biggest, fattest broadbands ever. And they didn't really want anybody on looking on mobiles in 2G somewhere as a client. And so they didn't care. That was really down the bottom of the pile. It was the last thing they would be optimizing. So it really does depend on your platform, your market, and on the rest of it, and which pieces you need to focus on. And as technical SEOs, we need to understand the business just as much as the platform and really where it's aimed at, etc. So it can be quite tricky sometimes to work out where to focus those priorities. And will it move the needle? Yeah, it really does depend. What do you mean by moving the needle? Will it get you higher rankings? Possibly, but that really does depend on all the competition and what they're doing. Will it bring more bottom line revenue? Don't know. It's on a site by site basis. I'd say go and do it for the sake of doing it, and maybe just do it over time. Pick something to do this month, something next month. If something is seriously wrong, stopping traffic getting to your site, fix that first, and everything else is going to be secondary to do when you've got a bit of spare time. I'll go through what's been said in the chat. John said a good SEO audit won't shy away from saying there's nothing critical. I've done that. People weren't happy, but I've done that. Rob said, for those non-SEOs, H2 is a pencil. You can't have too many pencils. Very true. I've got a pencil here that's not a pencil. Ask me later. Fran said, I mean, if all menu items and sidebar stuff, etc., were in H2, that might be too many. It's a good point. Actually, how do you structure your navigation with headings, etc.? I'm not keen on headings in navigation, but it's up to you. Veronica said, if resources are tight, focus first on crawlability. Very good point. Core web vitals and content that matches intent. That's where you'll see real impact. That is very true. Content is probably the biggest and most important thing, but then I'd say indexing is probably the next biggest thing. That's another one. Mark said there's a whole bunch of stuff that SEO audit tools cannot find. Very true. And it's usually big things. You'd probably get more value just giving an SEO expert 1 hour to poke around. And there's nothing that an SEO expert likes more than poking around. I didn't say that last bit, I did. Raymond's agreed. John's brought something up which is very interesting. None of the top 200 sites have valid HTML on their homepage. I have on social media suggested to John that he and the team at Google make valid HTML a teeny weeny tiny ranking factor, and then we'll see what complete mess that causes to the top 200 websites. It would be fun. Personally, I'm very much into standards. And if you build a website, that means people that come after you can then fix it without having to spend lots of time trying to find out what's wrong. HTML isn't that difficult. It's a markup language, not code. Well, it is code, but Monty said poking around is what we do. Very true. And Ramona says around pokers optimizations, which I don't understand at all, but then that's the chat.
Great. Yeah, I think these tools are quite good at giving you an indicator in terms of how things are doing, but often you pay monthly subscription fees, so they sometimes overcomplicate things. So it makes you feel like you need to keep them and you need to obsess over these scores or whatever it is, all these ticks or pencils or whatever anyone says. And I think if I was coming into SEO new and looking at one of these tools, often you can Google the actual terms and usually just search on their site to find out what they actually mean. And I think that's probably where I would start, would just be to work through that list. If they give you any sort of indicator in terms of how important each issue is, maybe you could then do some research and try and work out if it's a problem with, say, search engines trying to actually access the site, or if it's just a recommendation to improve accessibility or usability. So yeah, I would really try and understand why that issue is important. And the other thing with these tools is a lot of them aren't specific to industries. So they're trying to capture every website, and therefore you end up with tons and tons of issues that may not be issues for you, like Simon said. And I think getting somebody who knows a bit about SEO, maybe it's just a friend to have a poke around, or you are more than welcome to send us your URL. And we've got on the call tons of people who would be more than happy to poke around and have a look during the question. So feel free to do that. And you'll probably get, I think, way more value from the people on this call. So feel free to do that in the future. Great. Sorry, I didn't mean that to be a promotion for SEO office hours. You know what I mean. Okay, next question. So I've been holding this one back and you'll realize why in a moment. What makes a talk proposal stand out to conference organizers? Yagmur, would you like to go first on this one?
Yeah, sure. although I'm new in the conference area as well. So obviously, when we open the speaker applications, we also let people know that our audience, etc., and they're already knowing and following us anyway. So as a event organizer, I first check obviously the speaker's background and if they understand our audience, if they would understand our audience level. And also we first don't check about which title was provided from which speaker. So we get like a pool of titles and then we start analyzing if they are actually practical talk titles, like what is the outline, if people who attend the conference would get value insights and practical tips when they leave the conference. Because I think I'm hearing it from many SEOs in my network, and also we're also doing paid talks as well, so paid performance specialists as well. So they keep saying that we are fed up with the stage talks, like that doesn't give any practical insight and just having highlighted and top level information. And basically, sometimes it can help with the audience who are just entering the industry or they need a motivation or inspiration, etc. But if we are focusing on an expert audience, we might need to hear more and advanced level of topics. We start analyzing the topics considering that. And also, obviously, not all the talks are not practical, but sometimes we have to choose one from three titles which are really similar. So in that point, I think outline is becoming really important. As a speaker as well, sometimes I'm submitting talk titles to other conferences, and sometimes I'm just not gonna lie, I don't have that much time to outline in details and think about it. And I know that that title is gonna reject it anyway, but I just submit. I think we need to be more detailed, not AI written talk outlines. Perhaps first get our brief really properly and then probably use AI to arrange it or organize a topic around. But yeah, I guess creativity on the title and details in the outline, and also practicality, as well as the any resources that you provide at the end as free, would also be really eye-catchy for event organizer. And I think as a speaker, we are responsible on the conference as well, like conference promotion, on other stuff. Like I also check if the speakers we work with are owning their session, if they are really promoting the talk of themselves and helping spread the word. So I think that's also important responsibility, as well as providing the slides in time. So if I work with a speaker who provided everything on time and everything really solid, like very useful talk, etc., I would probably invite that speaker again to my conference or events and without even him or her submitting the talk. So I think those things are really important and giving you a, let's say, trust signals for the next applications, I would say.
Amazing advice. Emma, you're a speaker. What's your secrets?
I don't know if I really have any outside of what Ema just said. I think I always try to tailor it as much as possible to the audience that is going, because ultimately they have to get use out of listening to you. You're not there to just be heard, you're there to provide value. So I always try to do that as much as possible. Yeah, I wouldn't say I have too much more to add, but I did listen to something recently. I can't remember what her name is, but she's one of the organizers of the international, I think it's International Search Summit. And she said that she sometimes gets applications and it's not even about international SEO. And it's like, it's in the name. Like, we want to hear about international SEO. So yeah, my main thing is make sure that it's tailored to the audience and like really go hard on tailoring, make sure they get the value from it.
Amazing. Simon, are you a speaker?
No, I famously don't speak anywhere. It's just something that happened when I was a kid. I do online stuff. But as an audience participant, and Brighton SEO is coming up in October, hooray. And so I have to choose which speech presentations I go and look at, etc. So as an audience member, I tend to look for stuff that's going to interest me, that some aspect of what they're going to speak about is either new to me or something I can learn from. And I think if you're pitching something that is either new to people or maybe it's a refresher for people, etc., but you want to pitch it in such a way that makes people like me in the audience want to go and watch it. I think that's a simple thing. I know obviously Yama's answer is far better than mine, but that's just my little bit of perspective on that. All right, in the chat, Marcus said providing slides on time. That's probably a very good thing to do. It's like getting your questions late. Raymond said, especially when there's lots of talks like a Brighton SEO, I'll pick subjects I know the least about, which is exactly what I was saying. And I quite often do that. I'll go in and watch things that I don't know anything about just to learn about them. Once he said it's like when teaching and training, whatever you present has to be relevant and interesting. Otherwise, even presenters may find boring thing to do. Very true. Mike.
Amazing. I don't really speak. Apart from doing this, I don't really do anything. So I can't really give advice. But I am listening to everybody's advice because that was amazing. Okay, should we jump on to the next question? I think we can fit one in before our regular one. Reddit threads are increasingly surfacing in Google's results, and their data is even being licensed to train AI models. For B2B marketers trying to reach buyers, how should we think about Reddit? An SEO opportunity, brand building channel, or both? And what's the best way to approach it without getting downvoted out of the conversation? Who would like to kick off on this one?
Do
You
you want to go first? Go for it.
I mean, I'm not a Reddit specialist or person anyway, but I used to see Reddit as an SEO opportunity for content ideas because I used to work with some B2B clients, and when I was stuck with the content ideas, because sometimes some industries are boring area for me. So when I was stuck, I was going to Reddit and then I was trying to find the questions that actual audience were asking. And then I was actually getting even content hub ideas from there. But to be fair, recently I don't have any successful case that I can actually showcase like, oh wow, we did this with using Reddit and then this happened. I think it's quite a shaky area for me to make a comment. But yeah, I used to use it as an SEO opportunity. Still, there are really great ideas, and I think we can use it to somehow beat some Reddit results nowadays. So yeah, that's it from my side.
Yeah, I agree with you. Thinking about it in the way that the question is formed leaves a slightly bad taste in my mouth. I don't really like the idea of that as a tactic. Like, I think it's more about, as you said, getting ideas or looking at the reviews of, for example, if you have a product and there are reviews, like finding out ways to improve the product or improve the customer service. If people are making comments about certain things or praising certain things, then it's good to continue doing that. I think that's definitely useful. And then if you're part of a community, then just engaging in the community, I think, can always just is a good thing, like good community management, rather than thinking of it as like specifically an SEO tactic. You're doing it for this one purpose to get a link in on that specific question. I think sometimes if you're doing reputation management, then you have to consider these questions. If something has gone wrong or you're trying to manage, I don't know, like sometimes you'll find it where competitors talk bad about you on there. Sometimes you have to do things that you wouldn't normally do if that wasn't happening. I very much respect the Reddit community and they also terrify me. So I treat Reddit like very nicely. I think, yeah, it's about like community management, reputation management more than specifically SEO. That's my way of viewing it, although I do think that there are definitely tests going on. I've seen some people talking on LinkedIn about, oh, they did this on Reddit and immediately got this. And I think it's, wow, yesteryear, is that you? I haven't seen you in a while. Try not to think about it in that way, more about the community and what it means and what it can do for me, what you can learn from it as well, and what you can do from there.
Great. Simon, do you have anything to add?
I don't use Reddit a lot, really, but right now, because of the interactions with Google, I think it's obviously got a lot of focus. I think it's not a strategy. I think it's a tactic. And as Raman's in the chat, it's the same as much as with forum, bunging links in forum posts many years ago. People are trying to seed stuff into Google. I think, as Emma said, if you've got a community going on there to look after your products, etc., you'll already be doing that. So you're winning because of the Reddit relationship. I think if people try and dive in now, it probably is too late. But yeah, for brand protection and building, if you've got something in there already, yeah, keep working it. But say brand people and social teams should be on that already, looking through what's being said about their brands and etc. and doing it. But for me, it's something that I wouldn't go into now just because it's showing up on Google. I think you're too late. In the chat, we have a few things. Preeti said you'll get downvoted no matter what you say. Very true. It's an alt community Reddit. It depends which part you're in as well. Some of it's very good, some of it's bizarre. And then John said, is AEO just spamming Reddit? It's a very good point. Ramon, as I said, dropping links in forum topics like 15 years ago. It's ricochet all over again. Veronica said, use it to the fullest. We have a great Reddit community and it's all branding, networking, and also an SEO idea channel, which is a very good point. It was before the deal with Google. It was a place to go and get ideas people were talking about, etc. We have new clients and they say, we want your solution because you're great Reddit community management. I think for the right, that's a very good point, Veronica. And I think for the right market, etc., you should be in there doing it already anyway. Monty said she agrees with Emma, useful for getting ideas and engaging, but I think we can have it can be resource intensive. We have to prioritize what we do. Very good point. Pretty said, building on what Emma is saying, why can't Reddit be a community where people discuss things? Am I asking too much? Yeah, probably. And Ramon said exactly the same with respecting and reviews and Trustpilot. And Mark said, make a strategy where you become the story that Redditors talk about. Good point. Bring the data they are interested in, get the coverage they will find, be the spark. Don't just climb in through the window and talk loudly at people. And I think that's a very good point.
Yeah, I totally agree with Mark's point at the end there, everybody's point, but particularly that one. I love consuming content on Reddit. I don't really participate that much apart from just seeing what people are saying, particularly in SEO. I think those that are very self-promotional, or it's quite obvious that you've just put a link to your own website, you're just not going to be in the conversation. So you can do it and it'll just be a total waste of time. Yeah, I think if you're the people I tend to follow on Reddit or read about, they're just their authentic self. They're not necessarily trying to promote anything. They're giving advice. They're getting involved in conversations. And I think what Mark said about actually being the topic that people are talking about, or your business or what you do, is really important. I think if anybody's talking about you, then it makes total sense that you might want to respond. But I would make it clear that it's you responding and it's your company and not pretending to be someone else. I think that's quite common. And yeah, okay, great. Is there anything else before we jump on to the final question?
No, far away.
Super. Okay. Don't have it in front of me, but it's the same each week. It's what are you most excited about in terms of SEO? Simon, what are you most excited about in terms of SEO?
I've started looking to the new RSL standard for publishers, which is the really simple licensing. It's potentially quite exciting. They give it a year and it will probably be dead. Until then, let's panic and see what we as SEOs will need to do now. And I'll chuck a link to the RSL standard in the chat. It's rslstandard.org.
Amazing. Yagmur, what are you most excited about in terms of SEO at the moment?
As far as I'm scared about this new AI stuff, I'm also relieved that now that some old school SEOs started thinking like outside of blue links, they started refreshing their point of view and the way they think about a campaign and strategy. I think we needed that. I was always, since I was from the startup landscape, I was always thinking outside of SEO when I have a client, like in general, like a business growth perspective. And I was actually expecting that from some of my fellow SEOs, because when I have a client and I see what happened before that, I was like, how come they didn't think about this? We talked about UX, we talked about other stuff. Yeah, I think now it's refreshing feeling that people are start thinking outside of the box, and it also impacts the client's perspective on SEO's presence on their teams, I believe.
Amazing.
And yeah, sorry, and yeah, becoming like the ones who are actually leading the client, who are not aware of the AI change or don't know anything about it. So we are the ones who are gonna lead them. As we learn, we will also teach them what we learn, basically. So it's exciting.
Amazing. Emma, what are you most excited about in terms of SEO? Has anything changed in the last, I think you're on about 5 weeks ago. So has anything changed for you in 5 weeks?
I have had time to think about how to answer this question. That's what's changed in the last 5 minutes. But I think it's great that everybody is putting in a lot of effort to learn and have answers about AIO and what it is. Is it SEO? Is there any nuance? What is an LLM? What's going on? I think that is really good to see, because I think time and time again, what drives people in SEO is that they say that it's always changing. There's always something else to learn, and there's quite a big change event going on. So I think that's really driving people, and it's really good to see. I remember thinking when everybody was first started talking about AI platforms and what's going on, I was thinking, you know what, we need like a Rand Fishkin of AI. We need someone to really like take up the testing mantle. And what would Rand Fishkin is here? He is the Rand Fishkin. He's back. He's back, baby. So that's really good to see. Really exciting seeing all of the data coming out at the moment. So yeah, that's the exciting thing.
Amazing. I never usually answer this question, but this week was the first week that I ran an AI agent workshop with a client and their senior leadership team. And it was so fun. And obviously, we're all learning. So I was just sharing what I've read and what I know. And it was fascinating because there was a moment where I had this agent log into their CMS, and it's a custom built CMS. And I'm going to be honest, it's not the easiest thing to use. And it was fascinating seeing all of their faces watching this agent go in and change my profile photo in their CMS. And it was just like, wow. So that was great. But I think the other thing was actually hearing how everybody's outside of us, how they're already using AI in different ways, and they were sharing and so on. And I definitely encourage that, where finance was sharing with sales and so on. And yeah, so I was quite excited about that. That was fun. Okay, let's finish there. Thank you so much to everybody let's start with those who joined us live. Thank you so much to those of you that joined us live to watch, and for all your advice that you share in the chat. As I said at the beginning, I really think that does make SEO Office Hours really special. Thank you to those who are watching now on YouTube. Please come and join us. It's so much better live. You've got so many great people in our industry, and you can ask more questions, especially if you guys are the ones that have submitted questions. I noticed that you don't always come on and you wait for the recording, but come on and then tell us that it's you, and we can probably help you more. Thank you so much to Yagmur and Emma. You've been amazing special guests. And thank you so much to my co-host, Simon. You're incredible today. You are definitely coming back. I think we need an episode where it's you and Jordan. I really think that would be running the show. That would be great. Joe, I noticed that you've come on in the last moment. We're still here. It's worked. The place hasn't burnt down. Thanks for joining. But I hope everybody has a lovely weekend. Thanks to those who submitted the questions too. I almost forgot you. Great. Thank you. Have a lovely weekend.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.